That got me. Oh, Katy.
Okay, so today we're talking about Katy Perry, who has finally spoken about her collaboration with music producer Dr. Luke. Remember the 2014 Dr. Luke, Kesha, known women abuser, that kind of situation. Well, if you don't already know, Katy Perry released her new album with that ridiculous song which just sounded like a chat GPT script, but it was not good.
Girl boss shit! You can do it! You go, girl! You were born to shine. We're kind of just having fun, being a bit sarcastic with it. It's very slapstick, very on the nose. And with this set, it's like, ooh, we're not about the male gaze, but we really are about the male gaze.
She then basically came out and she said, oh, this is all satire, da 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 da. Big news headlines where people were like, oh, she's working with Dr. Luke. Headlines everywhere saying that her team were trying to persuade her not to do it, but she decided to do it anyway. Does this remind you of a certain Jennifer Lopez? That's what happened, and people were waiting for her to say something. Well, don't worry about it, guys, because she appeared on Her Daddy podcast, and oh god, it was just so bad. It was just so bad. And I'm not just saying that so that I can make a video about it. It really was quite something.
I want to ask you about one collaborator in particular. I know a lot of people have expressed disappointment and were really upset that you decided to involve Dr. Luke on this album. Why did you choose to work with him?
I understand that it started a lot of conversations, and he was one of many collaborators that I collaborated with. But the reality is it comes from me. The truth is I wrote these songs from my experience of my whole life going through this metamorphosis. He was one of the people to help facilitate all that. One of the writers, one of the producers. I am speaking from my own experience. Like when I speak about Woman's World, I speak about feeling so empowered now as a mother, as a woman, giving birth, creating life, creating another set of organs, a brain, a heart. I created a whole ass heart and I did it and I'm still doing it and I'm still a matriarch and feeling really grounded in that. That's where I'm speaking from.
Yeah.
I created all of this with several different collaborators, people that I've collaborated with from the past, from Teenage Dream era, all of that.
She danced around the question, number one, because it is a pretty big deal. Like, why would you choose to work with somebody who loads of people don't want to work with anymore because of what's been going on with, between him and Kesha? Where there was it Lady Gaga? It was someone came out in support of Kesha and basically backed up what she was saying. Her song was about like female empowerment, lift women's up, it's a women's world, you guys are happy to be living with it, but then with collaborating with Dr. Luke, so the whole thing didn't make any sense. So of course people are going to want to ask the hard-hitting questions. Sorry if there's loads of Alex Cooper fans in here. I don't feel like Alex Cooper's podcast was the right place to be doing it. Most of them are not really journalists. Most of them are just people who have a podcast, and then you then get these big celebrities who end up coming in and out of scandals. And I feel like for a celebrity, the safest place to be is probably like a big influencer slash, like socialites, content creators podcast, isn't it? Because they're going to get away with not really answering the question, but still being able to talk about things that are upbeat in conversation. They're not going to be like targeted with these kind of hard hitting questions. And if they are, there's not really going to be any follow-up to them.
It's like if I come downstairs and the kitchen is clean and you've done it all and you've done all the dishes and closed all the pantry doors, you better be ready to get your socked. I mean, like literally. Which I don't need a red Ferrari. I can buy a red Ferrari. Just do the I will suck you. It's not easy.
And it's extremely telling when you have these big celebrities who do have scandals and dramas, then answering questions on these influencers, because let's face it, that's what they are, podcasts. But that's just my own personal opinion, and I'm not really the biggest fan of most of the podcasts where they have stemmed from being influencers, content creators. That's just me. I'd much rather watch like an actual interview or like an actual journalist asking the questions, and even if their publicist doesn't agree with the question being asked. Usually you get that little cutscene where it's like, no, we can't include that.
So empowered now as a mother, as a woman, giving birth, creating life, creating another set of organs.
She then started going on about the fact that she's just so grateful that she's a mum and that she makes baby hearts. I'm also a mum, and as much as that being a really great, empowering thing, don't get me wrong, I'm not taking the biscuit out of it or anything. That wasn't anywhere, that wasn't the question. It wasn't the question, and more importantly as well, you're asked a question about this guy who's been accused of really nasty things towards other women, and your answer is to start talking about your version of female empowerment and making babies. It's just not. It's like she doesn't fully understand. It's almost to the point of, why would you even bother agreeing to that question? Because it probably would have had to have been agreed by her publicist. Why agree to answering that question if you're not actually going to answer it?
Really grounded in that. That's where I'm speaking from.
Yeah.
And
of course, Alex Cooper just sort of went like, yeah. And then it just went on, and then they started talking about other things. Not to mention as well is that I was watching a lot of the Call Her Daddy, the shots over on TikTok, just watching them one after the other. I went on to, and I saw it on another TikTok, where they were actually talking about this question. Because if you go on to Alex Cooper's reel, there's not a category for it. I don't know if that's just on my end, but I'll show you right up here. None of those videos are anything to do with that question, and I'm just wondering, would that be because Katy Perry's publicist or whatever doesn't want that kind of attention being put on it? I don't know. I just found it a bit strange, because I would have assumed that would have gotten a hell of a lot of views, but they didn't put it up there. Instead, they were talking about Teenage Dream and the Peacock song, and there was also a bit where they were talking about, like, look at this headline. Look at that headline. I had to blur certain parts of it out because it won't let me talk about it. She gives Orlando Bloom an oral activity if he does the housework, but then she also goes on to say that they have a cleaner anyway, so I don't know. I have no idea what was going on over there. Her and Orlando Bloom had broken up, which I didn't actually know.
Did you and Orlando talk while you guys were like broken up, or no?
Kind of. He was boundaried.
Who initiated getting back together?
And they were talking about like getting drunk, and there was something about like toilets and hitting head on toilet when you're being sick. I don't know. She was talking about her like metamorphosis and how she's now like a mother, and she's like metamorphosized into somebody else. To me personally, Katy Perry's also always seemed like someone that is just extremely stuck in her Teenage Dream era, which is where I mostly know her from. That's kind of where I grew up with her. Teenage Dream's a great, that whole thing. So this album, A, no one really asked for it. And B, it sounded just like something that would have been regurgitated in a Teenage Dream era. It's not really like a metamorphosis going on. Did you see what I mean? I will say it once and I will say it again. I think, the reasoning why she did go on this podcast, and she has now finally spoken out about Dr. Luke whilst also not talking about him, is because it's a really safe bet. If she was put in front of an actual journalist, or put in front of someone who... if she was put in front of a proper, like an actual journalist, and she was asked this kind of questions, they would have been asked in a way that you would have got a better answer, or they would have been a bit more persistent in trying to get an answer. And I'm sure for Alex Cooper, this would have been like a really big payday for her. And I know she's had big people on there before, but Katy Perry's like fresh out of a bit of controversy, and she's still in it thanks to this interview. So it's going to boost up numbers either way, but I just don't feel like that was the best person or the best podcast to go to. And I'm not the only person that thinks this, okay? I've seen TikTok after TikTok. I've seen news headline after news headline talking about how she's evading the question, and how she just went on to talk about Orlando Bloom's instead. And I don't know. I feel like she's just very stuck with how she's moving as an artist. But the thing is that she's got so much money. Her and Orlando have so much money and so much wealth, and Katy doesn't really need to keep on trying to prove herself as an artist, if you know what I mean, because as far as I'm aware, she hasn't put out a good album in a little while. And I'm not the biggest Katy Perry fan, but I do like some of her songs, and I grew up throughout my late childhood, grew up with a lot of her songs. So to me, I don't know, I just felt like no one really asked for the album. She could have avoided all of this. I just think it's a case of really out of touch. Well, I mean, most celebrities are out of touch, but I just think it's a case of extremely out of touch people. And yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think? I know this is extremely short and sweet, but there's not really much else to report on in this regard. But anyway, I hope you guys are having a wonderful day wherever you are in this world. Take care of each other, take care of yourselves, and I will catch up with you guys in the next video.